Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Zeriko Kathos with Demonosophy and Beyond, and I am here to talk to you about the entity called Valak. Now, some of you may recognize the name, and I believe it was the entity that was in one of those horror movies, the one that played the nun, the demon that was behind the nun. Well, I want you to chuck that imagery, because a lot of what we've been told is bullshit. I've met Valak in person, and first of all, let me tell you that these beings are multidimensional beings. So when we think about demons or angels, we usually think about them being in the spirit realm and connecting with them on that level and going through some kind of ceremony and stuff. But the truth is that they're here. They're in human form. You can touch them. They will identify themselves to people that they feel are worthy enough to speak to. And so today, or yesterday, I came upon Valak. I didn't know who he was, but he identified himself. He was like, at first, because it's Halloween, okay? It was Halloween yesterday. I was dressed up in my sorcerer getup that I bought specifically for Halloween, and he asked me who I was. And I said, myself, a motherfucking sorcerer. And so he said, I'm a sorcerer too. And I said, yeah? I said, well, what are you into? And he said, Volak. I said, Volak? I've never heard that before. First of all, he said that he is a vampire. So I was like, okay, I've dealt with vampires before, nothing wrong with that. They're people too. But then he said Volak. And I was like, it's a type of vampire? Like, I've never heard that before. And he says, look it up. So when I looked up Volak, because he spelt it for me, Valak came up. And he said, that's a variation. He said, the name is spelled many different ways. So, okay. So I didn't really understand that he was identifying himself at first until he clarified. So he and I sat and talked, and when we sat down and I was talking more in depth with him, that's when I realized that he was saying, I am Valak. And he expressed that more directly. Now, with Valak, he's very soft-spoken. So you have to really listen to what he's trying to say. And he was telling me, he says, go look at my image. And so the image, the popular image, is of a child. And the child is riding a two-headed dragon. I'll try to put that image into this video so you can see. But he said, I'm innocent, and that child is a representation of that innocence. And so I said, if you're innocent, why does the world portray you as a demon? And he said, the world does not think that anyone deserves to be innocent or have innocence. And that was kind of deep for me. Because when you do look at this world is very good at corrupting people, especially our children. We see our children are exposed to so many different things, so many negative influences. Like nowadays, they watch rated R movies, like it's nothing. They watch reality shows. They hear this music, and this music is constantly bombarding them with negative mentality, whether it's violence, whether it comes to sex, whether it comes to how you should see yourself. Also, they're exposed to visions of sexuality before it's time for them to even embrace that part of their life. Okay, so everything is twisted. And so when he told me about the world not thinking that anyone should have any innocence, and that's why they vilify him, I can understand. He was also telling me how some people deal with magic and it corrupts them because they're dealing with things that maybe they're not ready for, or they're not using it correctly. And when he was talking about the dark and the light, he was talking about how both could be abused, and that sits with you. And he says the reason why people get corrupted is because they get caught up in a cycle. And he said that there's a time. He said that people get stuck in basically a time loop, and that's what corrupts them. And the way he was talking to me was kind of like we build our own hells through guilt, through anything that causes us to repeat a negative mindset. And he also told me that we are the ones that do harm to ourselves on most occasions. He says we are the ones that are most likely hurting ourselves. So if we are the ones that are hurting ourselves, we are the ones that can start healing ourselves as well. He also said that he doesn't like religion because religion is one of those things that it's corrupt in a way where it's not being used in a proper way to help people. It's more about helping itself, and how the people who are up top, they're abusing the magic. What else did he say? He was talking about how the use of magic, he says if it feels good, then that means that the magic was used correctly. He also talked about the fact that he was vilified because he chose to change. He chose to change his way of thinking, and he chose to grow, and was talking about that growth. He was also talking about how when we interact with different energies, that's how we grow in our power as well. So the thing about this is, when it comes to angels and demons, we usually say angels are good, demons are bad. Well, the truth is that angels can have both a positive and negative influence. Demons can have a positive and negative influence. Okay. But we can't lump them all in one. We can't put them all in one group and say this one is good and this one is bad. Because if we do that, then it's going to limit our power, limit our growth. And he was telling me that we may not like our interactions with different spirits, whether it's angels or demons, but sometimes we need those negative interactions in order to grow. Therefore, we do ourselves a disservice, by staying away from demons. We're told to fear these entities. And what does fear do? Fear keeps us stagnant. Fear keeps us in a low state. And it keeps us from understanding that the stories that we're told about certain entities are lies. This particular spirit was not violent. In fact, he said that he was talking about how he wanted to create beauty within the world. He wanted to help people. But he said that people had to be open to that help. Or else he couldn't interact with them. And if you're constantly looking at certain spirits as evil, you're not going to be open to the help that they want to give you. He said that he chose to maintain his innocence, and that's the way he works. Like, he makes choices through that way of innocence. And I personally feel that when somebody is working from a place of innocence, they're not going to be working from a place of maliciousness. Can their choices get them in trouble? Yes. Can their choices have negative impact at times? Yes. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they are a bad person. We all make mistakes. So Valak was also telling me that he's the one that also pointed out that, not all angels are good and not all demons are bad. It's kind of like a very gray space. But in that short period of time that we had a talk, that we had a chat, he also said that the reason he was down here, and when I say down here, is because demons are not of a low vibration. He confirmed that both heaven and hell do back deals. Like, they're constantly, listen to this, they are constantly communicating with one another and working in concert with one another. He told me that basically they're all one big family. Like, they have disagreements, but they're all part of the same group. And these are the things that mainstream religion doesn't tell you. These are the things that you don't have access to this information because they don't want you going to certain entities and learning the truth. They don't want you to know that these entities are down here with us in order to help us. He also talked about how the best way to help out human beings is to understand where they are coming from. That's why they're all down here. That's why they're in human form, living human lives. He also said that there are a lot of demons and angels around in all aspects of life. There are angels working within governments and corporations. There are demons working within the different governments and the different corporations. All for different purposes. There are demons and there are angels that are attached to certain secret societies, and all of it's connected. And it's funny because the deeper in you get, your world starts to blend. Okay? So these entities start manifesting as people. They start coming to you. They start identifying themselves. Your worlds become one. They start to merge. The spirit world and the physical world, they start becoming one. That's why these entities come to you. That's why you can see them. That's why you can interact with them. That's why you can touch them. I've seen angels in human form. I've seen demons in human form. I've interacted with them. And if you don't believe that they're here influencing the world, like, you are doing yourself a disservice. But you have to understand that just like people are different, both classifications of entities are different in the sense that they all have they have different personalities, and they all have different ambitions. And so when you want to know who is good for you and who isn't, you're going to have to do a meet and greet. It's just like meeting a stranger. If you want to know if they're friend material, you have to feel them out. And when it came to Valak, or Volak, which he prefers to be called, I don't sense evil intentions from Volak. I don't even like calling him a demon because it has a negative connotation to it. And he was talking about how the world is flipped on its head. So the things that are perceived as bad, the things that are bad are perceived as good, and the things that are good are perceived as bad. So I hope that those who are able to hear understand what I am trying to say. I hope that those who are listening can get to a point where they see the world similar to the way I can see it. How everything is merged. I hope that those who are listening can hear the truth in my words and use my words to find their own truth. Stop being a sheep. Stop listening to everything that's coming in one ear. Do your own research. Like, reach out to these beings. The only way you're going to find out the truth is if you go to the source. The only way you're going to understand is if you let the beings that are being accused of being evil speak for themselves. It's like in court. Okay? If somebody blames you for something and takes you to court, you get to be there. You get to tell your side of the story. Otherwise, everything is just hearsay, until proven true, and then the person who's being accused is proved innocent or guilty. Like, if we work, well, it depends on what country you're in, but like, since I live in America, America says you are innocent until proven guilty. Okay? In the court of law. So, when somebody is accused of something, they're taken to this court. And let's say, in a perfect world, this court is just. The person who is accused gets to tell their story, their side. The person who is accusing tells their side of the story, and then you as a jury should be able to judge who's telling the truth. Now the problem is, in our society, we've been molded and brainwashed by religion in order to think that just because one side is accusing another side, that side is automatically guilty. We don't want to hear their side. We don't want to hear what they have to say. We don't want to see their point of view. And that's where we fail. That's where we fall short. That's where we neglect our spirituality. We hinder ourselves. And with that said, I'm just going to stop this rant. I wanted to talk. I didn't really have notes or anything. It's just speaking from the heart, speaking from my experiences. I hope that everybody is doing well. And I just hope that everybody is working through, trying to educate themselves and create their own worlds and put beauty out there into the world. You know, there's a lot of shit going on. There's a lot of dark shit, a lot of bad shit going on. And we need to work on raising our vibrations, and we also need to work on raising the worldly vibration too. And I believe that that is through unity. You know, if we're constantly thinking about separation and division and what group you belong and stuff, like that really, that hinders us, that weakens us. And when you speak to these spirits, they believe in unity as well. They know what's up. I even asked Valak, I said, do you believe that harmonization, which is a form of unity, and it was an angelic term, do you believe that harmonization is the key to creating a new world? He said yes. He also believes that the age, the new aeon is here. That the world has changed because more people are awake now, and because they are able to grasp more stuff, that the world is going to become a more positive place. So the so-called demon has a positive outlook. This so-called demon has faith in the human race. Think about that. I'm going to leave you on that thought, and I'll talk to you next time. See you next video.